And you're Mr. Harris? All right, state. You may be seated. State, the defense has informed the court that there may be more than one witness who will be appearing by Zoom because they can't be in court. Is there any objection from the state for witnesses appearing by Zoom?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Well,
What I mean by that, Judge, is there's some subject, just difficulties hearing or anything like that. That's when I would raise the objection at that point. If the state feels that it's not being able to cross-examine those witnesses.
but other than that, you have no objections.
No, Your Honor.
All right, defense. It's your witnesses. Do you have any objections to them appearing by Zoom?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Harris, you have a right to have witnesses here in court. Do you have any objections to those witnesses appearing by Zoom?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Efron, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Are both parties ready to have the jury brought in?
Yes, Your Honor.
We're ready, Judge.
All right. You can bring them in.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second phase of the trial, which is called the punishment phase. State, do you have any opening statements?
No, we're gonna waive the opening statement, Your Honor.
Defense?
We'll waive opening statement.
All right. State, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor. The state would just be reoffering all evidence and testimony that was in the not guilty phase of the trial, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
In our position on that, Judge, we just renew all of our objections to the evidence.
All right, so noted. All right, defense, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The first witness we're going to call is Mr. Oscar Bick.
All right. And just so both parties know, the court, myself, does know Mr. Vick. Is there any objection to the court proceeding with presiding over this case?
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, Mr. Vick. Okay. Oh, right here, Mr. Vick. Hello. Yeah. All right, just have a seat here, Mr. Vick. Could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, just you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury and the court reporter can hear.
Okay.
All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
Oscar Biggs.
All right, defense.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vick, if you at any time need to adjust the microphone or scoot up a little bit so we can hear you. All right. Sir, do you live here in San Antonio?
I do.
Okay, and how long have you lived here in San Antonio?
I got shot in Vietnam in 1970, and they sent me here from Vietnam, and I've been here since November 15th, 1970.
So it's fair to say that San Antonio is home.
Home.
Now, do you, in your time here in San Antonio, have you made acquaintance or come to know somebody by the name of Joseph Harris?
I have.
Okay. And do you see that person in the courtroom? And if so, could you point to him and describe just an article of clothing that he's wearing?
I got on a gray suit, and a white shirt, and a purple looking tie.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the Mr. Harris. And how long have you known Joseph Harris?
all his life.
Could you describe in terms the initial way that you begin knowing him or meeting him? How did that occur?
I joined Tremont Temple Baptist Church in June of 1971, and his mom was a member of the church at that time. And he was born maybe 10 or 15 years later.
Oh, so you were attending the church before Miss Harris was even born, correct?
Right.
Okay. So so you said maybe 15 years later, Ms. Harris is born. In terms of your the types of contact that you had with him, was it limited to the church, or were there other types of situations that you were involved with him?
I was in charge of youth activity, and I very seldom remember him not being, and I've taken kids to Houston, to Florida, St. Louis on field trips. And I just don't know no young man living that I've helped more than him.
Okay. So in terms of the types of field trips, whether field trips in association with the church or outside groups, or how did those things work?
Those are church bus. So we scheduled trips like 8-day trip to Georgia. We went to Birmingham, Atlanta, back to Birmingham, Tuskegee, Montgomery, and Selma, Alabama.
Okay. And the nature of those trips was what types of activities that you
Educate our kids.
Okay. And what type of education were you trying to, how were you trying to educate?
Really was just to expose them to see all the different things that they have been through and going through.
Now, was Joseph, was he involved in any other activities in the church itself?
We had Bible school, we had BTU, we had summer school, and that went on for almost 50 years.
So it's fair to say that Joseph was active in the church.
Right.
Was he involved in any groups like, say, usher board or the choir, anything like that, if you recall?
I recall him being active with the BTU and the Sunday school and summer camp.
Summer camp. Okay, now you use the term BTU, and that's in my life, that's an kind of old term that you hardly use anymore. Could you explain to Drew what do you mean by BTU?
That's a Bible training union, and you teach all your kids all the Bible, all the books of the Bible, and you teach them to understand what the Bible is all about.
Now, as Joseph grew up, as you grew up in the church, did you see the normal changes, if any, that would occur with a young person growing up and maturing? Were you able to observe those types of things with him?
Say again.
As you and Joseph were in the church over the years, were you able to observe him, Joseph, as he matured or grew up in the church?
He over the years, I've always tried to find something for young people to do, especially the ones that said they couldn't find a job. I said, you can either wash somebody's car or cut grass or do something until you find a job. And Joseph and I have been cutting grass ever since he could move a lawnmower.
Did that include any work around the church itself, or
The community, the church, yards, lawn or trees, whatever need to be done, he's done everything I've done.
Now, were there any other outside the church organizations that you were either involved in with Joseph or that you knew that he was involved in?
Hope House, George Frederick owns Hope House. And he teaches people how to get a job, stay off the street, and don't go back on the street. And I know that Joseph has been in his program on different occasions for different jobs.
Okay, and that's Hope House, you said?
Hope House
Okay.
on the corner of Cherry and Dawson Street. The old Sudden Film Home.
Now, in terms of your association or your being able to connect with Joseph over the years, what type, if you could describe to the jury, what type of person was Joseph in terms of say things like his work ethic, or what type of person did he grow up to be as you observed him over the years?
I have never known him to let me down. If I say get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or work till dawn, I have never known him to let me down.
I pass with this.
State.
Nothing from the state, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Biggs, you may step down. Thank you for coming in. State, I'm sorry, defense, call your next witness.
One Zoom, if I may, Judge, it should be Lysandra Galberry. Do you show her on Zoom?
No, the only person I have on Zoom now is Patricia Harris.
Okay. So at this point, we'll call Patricia Harris.
Ms. Harris, if you could show your video, please, and unmute.
Okay, can
All
you
right.
see me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a witness that is going to appear by Zoom because they're unable to be in the courthouse. Both the state and the defense have informed the court that they have no objections to this witness appearing by Zoom. Does everyone understand? All right, Ms. Harris, if you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record.
my name is Patricia Harris.
So both parties, please make sure that you use the microphones and speak loudly so that Ms. Harris can hear. And
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you're unable to hear, just let the court know. All right, defense.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Okay, Ms. Harris, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
If ever I drift off or you can't hear, just let us know. Are you, first of all, are you related to Joseph Harris?
yes, Joseph is my son.
And how many children do you have?
I have two. I'm sorry, I have three, including Joseph.
Yes, ma'am. And were you originally from San Antonio, or did you move here from somewhere else?
I'm originally from San Antonio. I've been here all my life.
In here, oh, yeah. And was Joseph, was he born here in San Antonio?
Yes,
Do you recall, say, Joseph's say elementary school years, do you remember what schools he went to?
Yes.
What school did he attend?
He went to Foster Elementary. He went to PF Stewart in Pecan Valley because and I was in the
Yes,
middle.
ma'am.
Okay.
And later on in middle school or high school?
All right, Ms. Harris, could you repeat that, please?
You said for middle school,
Yes, ma'am.
he went to Jeff Davis Middle School and Sam Houston High School.
And I forgot to ask him, you're testifying by video, and we can see that there's it's fair to say you had some type of injury that you're not able to actually come down to the courtroom, correct?
Correct.
In terms of Joseph in his early years, elementary school, middle school, did he have a typical childhood?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did he appear as he was going up to be pretty much normal child, likes, dislikes, fun? How could you describe him for us?
As far as his likes, Joseph played basketball at the YMCA, and Joseph, he was part of the gifted and talented program. Joseph won the Martin Luther King Essay Award, and he was cited in the Registered Community newspaper. He participated on a swim team. He played football. He was also on the ROTC program in his high school. Joseph was a very sociable person. And in the church, he was on the junior usher board, as well as the youth choir, and eventually the adult choir. That was at a historical family church, Tremont Temple. He also portrayed his third great grandfather at the Seguin Historical Riverside Community. Riverside Cemetery. It's a yearly event. Joseph also went and fed and clothed the homeless all over San Antonio. He also fed and clothed the Haitians in Mexico. He worked annually on the Juneteenth parade here in San Antonio. Let's see, Joseph also, he's known for helping the senior citizens in the community by doing handiwork for them.
So when he would do his handiwork for seniors, do you know whether that was something that he did voluntarily, or was he paid for it, or do you know?
He did it voluntarily. And then, there was some where, they gave him a donation for helping him.
Okay.
He also went and helped a family of 5. He helped rebuild their home. I forgot what program that was with.
Now, you mentioned something about him helping, I believe, Haitians in Mexico, I believe you stated.
Correct.
And could you tell us what, if anything, you knew about that? I mean, is it something where he actually went abroad and helped, or how was that program? Tell us about it.
He went abroad. He drove down in one of the vans with the program. And he went abroad there in Mexico among the Haitians, and he helped feed and clothe them.
Now, in terms of Joseph, if you had to kind of give us an example of what type of person he is, how do you characterize him if you can?
Like I was saying, he's sociable. Joseph, he helps around the house, and he helped, he put up ceiling fans for me. He likes to laugh and joke. He knows people. He likes to communicate and, just talk, chit chat and talk.
Now, does Joseph have any children?
Currently, right now, he has 7 children right now.
Okay. And do you know their names and ages?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what are their names and ages?
Okay. That's Joseph Jr., he's 14. That's Janaya, she's 10. That's Giovanni, he's 7. Julia is 5. Josiah is 3. Jamari is 1. And Joveris is 3 months.
And it's fair to say that he supports his children.
Yes, he does.
Would you happen to know whether any of his children were born either on February 28th or near February 28th?
Yes, Julia.
Jamia?
That was her birthday.
Okay. Now, back in February of last year, 2022, well, just in around that time period, was Joseph employed?
Yes, he was.
Okay, do you know where he was employed at?
He was working at the AT&T.
Okay, the AT&T Center?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what type of work he actually did at the AT&T Center?
He did, during that time, he did supervisory for one of the event booths.
Now, did you, in terms of Joseph into his life as you being his mom, was he, what type of work, if you could describe his work ethics, if you know, what type of worker was he?
What type of work did he do?
No, worker, was hard worker?
Oh, what type of worker?
Yes, ma'am.
Joseph was a hard worker. He was always willing to do and go above. He was always promoted to supervisory or management positions.
Do you did you ever have opportunities to see Joseph as he interacts with his children?
Yes.
Okay, could you explain that for us if you can?
His interaction with his children, they're crazy about him. They love their daddy, and he would take them out to eat, take them to different things like Peter Piper Pizza. This morning, he took them out for breakfast, but they can have breakfast tacos.
Okay. Would he do things like, if you know, take him to school or anything like that, or pick him up when he had a chance?
Right. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. He also take them to school, pick them up from school, go to their school programs that they have. He also took them to school this morning.
So it's fair to say he's an engaging parent. He engages his children and engage with the schools. Is that fair to say?
That is fair.
I would imagine during the time in terms of your son, how does he interact with, say, people like older people? I mean, have you ever had a chance to see how he reacts to, say, the elderly people? Anybody like that?
Yes, I've had a lot of chances to see him interact. He was always yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, no, ma'am. He was real polite, and whatever they asked him to do, he would do it. We have some elderly neighbors in our neighborhood where, they would call and say, "Hey, can you get Joseph to come get something for me off this high shelf? Can you take my trash out?" And he would go over there and take their trash out, put the trash out for them and everything.
I pass witness.
State?
Nothing from the state.
All right, thank you. Defense, call your next witness.
We'll see, Judge, if Miss Lasandra Bayberry has she checked in on the Zoom yet?
No, she hasn't checked in on the Zoom. If you would, you're more than welcome to step out to see if you can get her on the Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do while we're trying to get that person here on Zoom, I'm going to say 3:25 to be on the safe side. So you're not allowed to start deliberating at all. Y'all remember my previous instructions. You're not allowed to view everything. Everything that you need to know about this case for this phase of the trial is to come from inside this courtroom and nowhere else. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. Let me see if she can start her video. Lysandra? Lysandra? All right, if somebody can talk, is Lorraine talking her through this because she's in the waiting room?
Oh, okay.
Ah, here she is. Let me click to see if she can unmute. Ah, Lysandra?
Yes,
Hi,
Can
what's
you-
your full, yes, I can hear you. What's your full name?
Lysandra Melton Dolberry.
Ah, how do you spell the last name?
D as in David, O-L, B as in boy, E-R-R-Y.
All right, Miss Dolberry, if you just give us a moment, we will start with your testimony, okay?
Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
thank you.
Let me see if she can start a video. Lysandra?
Yes. Yes,
Lysandra?
yes. Can you hear me?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is Lorraine talking her through this?
No,
If you keep on meeting her, she's,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
you're gonna lose her. She's watching, yeah.
Lysandra?
yes, I'm
Yes.
here. I'm here.
Hi, what's your, yes, I can hear you. What's your full name?
Lysandra Melton Dolberry.
Miss Dolberry, are you watching this live?
I am.
You need to turn that off.
I'll mute my phone. Or do you want me to just turn it off, period?
All right. Yeah, you need to turn it off. Why do you
Okay.
think that should be on at all?
Okay. Hold on one second.
Testimony, okay?
Okay,
All
is
right,
that
let's,
better?
yes. Let's
Okay.
bring the jury in and let's bring the state back.
Bring and do this.
Yes, and we're going to take this person while she's here.
I thought she gave a phone.
All right, I figured we would come back because she was able to zoom in. And the defense tells me they're trying to have one more witness here
Okay, Judge.
by Zoom.
Yeah, he mentioned that they had about 4 witnesses.
Yes. All right, they'll be back at 2:25.
I mean, at 3:25.
3:25. All right, Miss Dahlberry, I'm going to put you in the breakout room. Do not leave. Understand?
Okay. Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, she's going to go in the waiting room and you can Yes. All right, Miss Dalberry, can you unmute?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, just one moment. Yes.
On the charge, I was just, looks like it says training offense in here.
Which part?
It's, sorry, it's page. It's like 4.
All right, I'll remove that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And for both sides, have you had ample time to review the charge, state,
Yeah, yes, sure.
defense?
We might need a minute, Joe.
State, do you have any objection to the charge?
Well, just the objection that we don't believe son of passion should be in there for the argument that we previously had.
All right. Other than that, any objections?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring the jurors in.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Defense, call your next witness.
Lysandra Dayberry.
Right. Ms. Dalberry,
Yes,
ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Ms. Dalberry is appearing by Zoom. She's unable to be in court today. That's why she is by Zoom. State, any objections to Ms. Dalberry appearing by Zoom?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, it is your witness. Do you have any objections to her appearing by Zoom?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris, any objections to this witness appearing by Zoom?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Dalberry, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Lysandra Melton Dolberry.
All right, and Ms. Dalberry, are you at home by yourself? Is there anyone in the room with you?
There's no one in the house with me at all.
All right, if you could remove your mask for me, please.
I'm wearing a mask because I'm swollen. I have a medical situation going on.
All right, any objections to her continuing with the mask, defense,
No, Your Honor.
state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed, defense.
Okay. Ms. Dayberry?
Yes,
Hope I pronounced your last name correctly. But in any event, if I'm gonna ask you some questions, if for some reason the sound drifts or you don't understand the question, you feel free to ask me to repeat the question. Okay.
yes, I will.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Ma'am, are you a native San Antonian or did you move here from somewhere else?
I'm a native San Antonio. I was born here.
Okay. Now, do you know Joseph Harris?
I do.
And how do you know Joseph?
I know Joseph because his mother, as a teenager, was part of a community choir that I founded. And so I was interacting with her from that time. I think she's about 16, 17 years old, up until the time that Joseph was born. Yeah, up until the time he was born.
So you knew Joseph's mother before
Yes.
Joseph was born?
Yes, yes. Actually, 3 generations. His mother, him, and his son. One of his sons have participated in programs with me.
Okay. And again, what type of programs were they?
There are community programs. I'm a certified chaplain. I'm a crisis intervention counselor and a minister. And so I do as well as a community advocate. I do ministry predominantly in the community. And so each of them have participated at one point or another in one of my programs.
Now, the program that Joseph participated in with you, what type of program specifically was that?
Well, Joseph participated with his son. I left San Antonio when Joseph was a preteen because I was traveling with the military husband, was gone until we retired. And then I returned here just recently, a few years ago. And so at that point, Joseph's son was singing with me in a community choir of children. And Joseph would come along, help set up, break down, do whatever needed to be done with the children and with parents at that point.
Okay. Explain his in terms of his Joseph's involvement. You said he would help. Was his help? I mean, did he help a lot, just sparingly, or was he full?
Well, whenever I needed him or whenever he was present, I'm thinking in terms right now of one situation where I did a princess tea party for young girls. And because those young girls had brothers and I didn't want them to feel left out, we did a pirates party for the boys. And so I needed tables and chairs and decorations, and I needed items to be carried. And Joseph was the main person that was doing that for us. His son also sang in the community children's community choir. And so he would often come and be with him while he was doing that.
Okay. Did you during those occasions have an opportunity to observe Joseph as he worked with his child and other children?
I observed him as he interacted with the other people, the other adults that were there. I have observed him as he interacted with his son. For the most part, Joseph is a pretty gregarious, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, always kind of joking and animated. That's the type of person he is. I have, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, in terms of his service or his willingness to help or to serve, could you describe that to us?
Yeah, he was always willing to help. If I asked him to do something, he'd do it. And he may joke around about it, but he would do it and he would be there until everything was done.
And was, in terms of his help, was that on several occasions or just one occasion or many occasions?
It was, I'm gonna say it was a couple of occasions. Because since I've been back, I've mostly interacted with Joseph through his mother. Not really interacted, but kept up with him through his mother. Now, we have had a couple of conversations periodically where he wanted to talk about life and love and those kinds of things. But, you know, they were sporadic. And yeah.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you are a minister.
I am.
Okay. So in terms of your dealings or your involvement with Joseph, has it ever been situations where he would come to you for something like spiritual advice or those types of things?
Yeah, he would. He knows my door is open to him. He knows that I'm going to shoot straight with him. And so when he comes, I know that he really wants to hear what I have to say. And so, yeah, there are times where he's come and he's just wanted to talk or sometimes vent. But at the end, he would always want to know what I thought. And like I said before, I'm a straight shooter. I work with young people in the community, and all the communities I've been in. I returned here recently, but I have done ministry for the last 39 years across the United States and in Alaska. And so most of the young people that I've dealt with, most of the parents, the adults that I deal with, understand that I'm just a straight shooter. And it's probably best not to ask me if you don't want to know the truth.
Now, in terms of your dealings with Joseph, would you describe him as a person that showed respect for others, for adults, for older people, that type? How would you describe that if you know?
Wait, did you say for dogs?
No, I'm saying, how would you describe Joseph in terms of his interactions with adults, the elderly, those types of situations?
Whenever I've seen him when he's interacting with adults or when he's interacting with seniors or anyone that I can think of, he's always been respectful. Even if he didn't agree, he was still respectful. And I've never known him to be disrespectful, to me at least.
Thank you very much. I'll pass with.
State.
Nothing from the state.
All right, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Defense, call your next witness.
Okay, I just want to make sure this Harold Clark is not present. So he's not here, Judge. So we rest.
All right. State.
Stay close.
All right. State, to rest and close.
I'm sorry, Judge, resting.
All right. Defense, do you close?
We closed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read to you the charge of the court. Again, you don't have to memorize this. You will be given a copy of it. Charge of the court on punishment. Members of the jury, by your verdict return in this case, you have found the defendant, Joseph Dale Harris, guilty of the offense of murder as charged in the indictment. It is necessary that the jury assess the punishment for this offense. When a defendant is convicted of murder, the defendant may raise and prove by a preponderance of the evidence that he caused the death under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause. Adequate cause means cause that would commonly produce a degree of anger, rage, resentment, or terror in a person of ordinary temper sufficient to render the mind incapable of cool reflection. Sudden passion means passion directly caused by and arising out of provocation by the individual killed or another acting with the person killed, which passion arises at the time of the offense and is not solely the result of a former provocation. The term preponderance of the evidence means the greater weight and degree of credible testimony or evidence introduced before you and admitted in evidence in this case. If you unanimously find that the defendant has proven by preponderance of the evidence that he caused the death of Isaiah Orozco under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, the special issue is to be answered by you in the affirmative. If you unanimously find that the defendant has not proven by preponderance of the evidence that he caused the death of Isaiah Orozco under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, you would consider the special issue in the negative. Now, bearing in mind the foregoing instructions, if you all agree that the defendant proved by preponderance of the evidence that the defendant, having committed the offense of murder, caused the death of Isaiah Orozco Under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, you must make an affirmative finding as to the special issue, and the punishment you must assess is by confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for any term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. If you all agree that the defendant did not prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the defendant, having committed the offense of murder, caused the death of Isaiah Orozco under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, you must make a negative finding as to the special issue, and the punishment you must assess is by confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for life or for any term of not more than 99 years or less than 5 years. You're instructed that your finding on the issue of sudden passion must be unanimous. That is, you must unanimously agree that the defendant either did or did not act under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause. In addition to imprisonment, an individual found guilty of the offense of murder may be punished by a fine not to exceed $10,000. And if you choose to assess a fine, in addition to your imprisonment, you will assess such fine and so state in your verdict. If you assess a fine, it is not paid to the victim or victims, if any, but is paid into the registry of the court. You are instructed that the defendant may testify in his own behalf if he chooses to do so. But if he elects not to do so, that fact cannot be taken by you as a circumstance against him, nor prejudice him in any way. The defendant has elected not to testify in this punishment phase of the trial, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it into consideration for any purpose whatsoever. In your deliberations, you may consider evidence introduced during the guilt phase of the trial, as well as any evidence introduced at the punishment phase of the trial. Under the instructions herein given, it will not be proper for you in determining the penalty to be assessed to fix the same by lot, chance, any system of averages, or any other method than by full, fair, and free exercise of the opinion of the individual jurors under the evidence admitted before you. The length of time for which a defendant is in prison may be reduced by the award of parole. Under the law applicable in this case, the defendant will not be eligible for parole until the actual time served equals 1/2 of the sentence imposed, or 30 years, whichever is less. If the defendant is sentenced to a term of less than 4 years, the defendant must serve at least 2 years before the defendant is eligible for parole. Eligibility for parole does not guarantee that parole will be granted. It cannot accurately be predicted how the parole law might be applied to this defendant because the application of that law will depend on decisions made by parole authorities. You may consider the existence of the parole law. You are not to consider the manner in which the parole law may be applied to this particular defendant. A suitable form is attached hereto for your verdict, if you should care to use the same. However, such form is not intended to influence you in any way in arriving at your verdict. In any event, your verdict must be unanimous in writing and signed by your presiding juror. Respectfully submitted, Judge Stephanie Boyd, 187 Judicial District Court, Bexar County, Texas, and suitable forms are attached. State, are you prepared to proceed?
Your Honor, the state reserves all time for final evidence.
All right, defense.
We're ready, Your Honor. Mr. Cox, Mr. Harris, and I, we hear your verdict. We receive your verdict. We accept your verdict. And now we ask you to do another difficult task, which is to assess punishment and sentence you. And you have a lot of years and range of punishment to consider. And we know that there's been a terrible loss of life. We know that. We know we can't change that or take that back. And we know that nothing you can do is going to ever fix the hole in the hearts of his family. And both families have lost today. Both families have mothers, brothers, sisters, children who have lost, because Mr. Harris's family is now lost to him and he is lost to them. He is a convicted felon. We hear you, we understand it, and he is forever now known as a convicted felon. And he will be known as a convicted felon to his mother. He will be known as a convicted felon to his community. He will be known as a convicted felon to his children. We hear your verdict. We know he's going to be sentenced here by you today. And you've heard about his 7 children. You'll also be imposing a sentence on his children as well. Because of the loss of their father. And you have heard that Joseph has very redeeming and mitigating qualities as a father, as a son, as a neighbor, as a community member, as a church member. And we ask you to consider those things and balance those things against everything else you have heard today, because this has been a difficult case with ugly facts, we know. But that's not the entire picture of who this man is. And so we ask you to consider all aspects of Joseph Harris when you go back to deliberate. And we ask you to remember that we want a chance to make amends. We want a chance to return to the community. He has the love and support of friends and family to help him do that. And in doing that and having an opportunity to return to his community in a short number of years, we hope, he will have a chance for rehabilitation. He will have a chance for reformation. He will have a chance for redemption. And we ask you for that.
Right, Mr. Cox?
May it please the court, counsel for the state, members of the jury. Again, this part of the trial is closing arguments, a summation on the issue of punishment. And you have options here. Again, we address you first, so the defense rather, and we have to kind of anticipate what the state may say when we're seated, and we can't say anything else to you. They may come to you and say, well, this is a murder case, you convicted him, our client, of murder, so disregard any Southern passion. Go back into the jury room and you give him a number of years. Sometimes they may say you start at the top or you start at 50 years, and you just give you a number to work with, and you go back, have a quick verdict, and you go home. But I still think that your job is more important. That your job is more profound. Because you give an oath that what you would do is that you would look at the evidence, this time with punishment, and make your decision based on evidence presented. That was your oath. Now, there's an issue, maybe 3 paragraphs down, which speaks about sudden passion. You have this charge, you will take it back with you, and you can read it, and your job is to see whether it's applicable in this case. And it says, sudden passion means directly caused by and arising out of provocation by the individual killed. Or another acting with the person killed, which passion arises at the time of the offense. It is not solely the result of any form of provocation. And what we see here in this case is that the issue that arose is maybe about 20 seconds. So if we're talking about a span of maybe 20 seconds to a minute max, then it answers one question: what happened suddenly. And when you go to page 2 of the charge, and you can read it for yourself, it says, if you unanimously find that the defendant has proven by a preponderance of the evidence, and I'm not talking about reasonable doubt, by a preponderance of the evidence, is tilting the scale, that he caused the death of Isaiah Orozco under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from adequate cause. The special issue is to be answered by you in the affirmative. Now, it doesn't say may be answered by you in the affirmative. It doesn't say the possibility of being answered by you in the affirmative. It says is to be answered in the affirmative. This is the law. So what we're asking is that for you to look at the charge. Of course, the state's going to come up. Disregard this. Oh, you don't need to really put any attention to it. Just go back, take a quick vote, say it doesn't apply, give them a number, and go home. If that is the way it was supposed to happen, we wouldn't need people to be on juries. In the sentencing aspect of it, because the only thing we have to do is put some numbers together, give it to some robots, and then just come up with a number. No. You're to review, to look at, and make determinations based on. Years ago, in my college years, That was a book I read once. I still have it. It's torn, it's tattered. The name of the book was Future Shock. Shock. And it was a must read back then. And I still remember it, and I still have it. And we went to page 4, I'm sorry, to chapter 4. In chapter 4, talked about, dated myself, it was in the 70s. And it talked about the throwaway society. Still remember. And basically, back then, it talked about us moving to a society when things didn't work, or we had a problem with certain things. We don't recycle. We don't clean the bottles out that we used to put milk in and use them again. We just throw things away. We're hoping that you don't throw those apparels away. This is the punishment stage of this case. And I submit to you that if there were negatives that the state was able to bring about Ms. Sahara, you would have it before you. Call a witness. We brought witnesses that talked about his childhood, talked about his activities in our community. That talked about him being involved in a church, not involved in a game. Talked about him helping people, not only in his community, outside his community, and even outside this country, helping people from all aspects of life. I don't come before you to try to tell you a number. But I come before you to tell you that he has redeeming value. He has a family, has kids. I don't come before you telling you not to consider life. All life is precious. But I submit to you that you review all the aspects of this case, which includes the evidence that you heard to punish. I submit to you that this case that shows that there was something sudden that happened that February 28th, 2022. It was passionate. It was immediate. And we submit that if you evaluate the case, that you would see that there was something sudden that happened. We submit to you that this case falls in the definition of sudden passion, and we ask you to find so. And give a number of years that's consistent with the evidence. We ask that you start on the lower end, and if you need to work upward, you do. Thank you very much.
All right, state.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'll be the last one to speak to you today. You know, defense counsel said, don't throw Joseph Harris away. I agree with that, because this is punishment phase. We're not throwing him in the trash. He's being made to be held accountable for his actions that day. But he threw somebody in the trash that day. Shot at him 16 times. And you know that you came back with a guilty verdict. But if you have to really think about the sudden passion, think about it this way. He had 7 to 8 steps to decide not to do what he did. When the danger had left, he had time to reflect on that. He's asking for a sentence in between 2 to 20 years, because that's where sudden passion takes it. That's not holding him accountable. He threw Isaiah Orozco in the trash that day. He doesn't have 7 kids that he can go home to, that can still talk to him, that he can give advice to. His family will never talk to him again, unlike Mr. Harris's family. Hold him accountable for that. With your guilty verdict you have, and now the time is for punishment, not to throw him away. Hold him accountable for shooting at another man 16 times in the middle of downtown San Antonio. With sudden passion, if you remember the testimony from Gonzalo Salinas and also William Fowler, the defendant didn't seem excited. He didn't seem to have anxiety. He seemed calm. Watch the video as he shoots Isaiah Orozco. That last shot, he shoots him, puts the gun in his waistband, and just walks back to the bus stop and gives it a fist pump to another individual. Does that seem like sudden passion? Does that seem like somebody that's under a rage? That seems like he's under a anger, a terror? No. He had capable time to reflect, and he chose to do what he did that day. Sudden passion is not this case. It's not this case. Just like you, by your verdict, said it wasn't self-defense. It's not sudden passion. He had time, had ample time, and through his lies that he told the detective and the lies that he told on that stand, he's trying to hide it from you again and say sudden passion. It doesn't match this case. For all accounts, every witness that came in said that Mr. Harris had a great life. He went to church, helped old people, helped kids, helped people in foreign countries. Well, one person he didn't help at all, that he helped street people, he fed people. Isaiah Orozco was out on that street that day. Other individuals are out there that day. Mr. Harris didn't help any of them. He's living his life. And yes, there's going to be some years that he's going to be spending in prison because of his actions that day. As somebody that's never going to see the light of day or ever see this world again is Isaiah Orozco. The defendant believed what he did was right. He believes that. Testify to that. Now he's saying sudden passion.
Objection, Judge. Violation of client's right remain silent during the punishment phase.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you to disregard state's last statement.
Move from this charge.
That'll be denied.
The appropriate sentence in this type of case is 60 years of murder. And that's what the state will be asking for. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all the evidence that you're going to hear in this case, in this phase of the trial. What is going to happen is Deputy Laura will take you back and then we'll await your verdict. And again, if Mr. Yayos, if you'll stay behind. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.